AITA for not paying for my friend's medical bills, even though I could easily afford it? I never thought money would ruin a friendship, but looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming. For most of my life, I understood struggle. I wasn't born into wealth, I didn't have a financial safety net, and I spent years living paycheck to paycheck. There were times when I had to choose between groceries and gas, between rent and medical bills. I learned to budget carefully, to say no to things I wanted, to push through exhaustion because missing a shift at work wasn't an option. That was just life for me. Then, everything changed. Through a mix of hard work, luck, and smart decisions, I built something better for myself. I got a good job in a field that paid well, I invested wisely, and over time, I found myself in a position I had never imagined: financial stability. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to check my bank account before making a purchase. I didn't have to panic over unexpected expenses. I wasn't rich by any means, but I was comfortable. And that's when I started noticing how differently people treated me. At first, it was little things, friends joking that I should cover dinner since I had the big bucks now, or family hinting that I could help out just this once. I brushed it off. I had no problem treating friends occasionally, and I understood that people assumed I was in a position to be generous. But over time, the requests became less like jokes and more like expectations. Then came my friend. Let's call her Emily. Emily and I had been close for years, long before money was ever part of the equation. We had been through a lot together: bad breakups, job losses, personal tragedies. She was one of the few people I considered family, the type of friend I thought would be in my life forever. So when she got sick, I was devastated. Her diagnosis was serious, the kind of illness that required expensive treatments, specialists, and time off work. She didn't have good insurance, and despite her family's best efforts, the costs were overwhelming. She set up a fundraiser to help cover expenses, and of course, I donated. But I didn't stop there. I drove her to appointments, helped with errands, made sure she had meals, and even connected her with people who could help. I was there for her emotionally and practically. I wanted to do whatever I could to lighten her burden. I thought I was doing everything I could to support her, until the day she sat me down and asked me to pay for the rest of her medical bills. Not just help, pay for everything. She wasn't asking me to contribute more. She wanted me to cover the entire remaining balance. It wasn't a small amount. It was tens of thousands of dollars. And the way she asked, it wasn't desperate, it wasn't hesitant. It was like she had already decided this was the logical next step. As if my financial security meant I was obligated to save her. I sat there, stunned. I wasn't expecting this at all. Up until that moment, I thought I had been doing everything I could to support Emily. I had donated. I had driven her to appointments. I had made sure she never had to worry about day-to-day things like groceries, cooking, or running errands. I had spent hours on the phone with her, comforting her on her bad days, reassuring her that she wasn't going through this alone. But apparently, none of that mattered. Because in her mind, the real way I could prove I cared was by paying off her medical bills. I hesitated before answering. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew that whatever came next would change our friendship forever. I asked her if she had exhausted all other options. Had she reached out to charities? Applied for financial aid? Looked into payment plans? She rolled her eyes like I was stalling, like I was making excuses not to help. She told me that yes, she had looked into those things, but that it wasn't enough. She needed the money now. She needed someone to just make it go away. And because I had the ability to do that, she thought it should be me. I felt something twist inside me: guilt, anger, disbelief. I wanted to help her. I truly did. But I had worked so hard for my financial security. I had spent years scraping by, making sacrifices, building up my savings so that I would never have to feel the kind of financial fear I used to live with. And now, she was asking me to throw all of that away in one moment. It wasn't even the money itself that hurt. It was the entitlement. I wasn't some billionaire sitting on endless wealth. Yes, I was doing well, but giving her tens of thousands of dollars would drastically impact me. It would put a dent in my savings, my future, my security. But to her, none of that seemed to matter. In her eyes, it was simple. I had money. She needed money. So why wouldn't I give it to her? That's when I knew this wasn't just about her illness. This was about what she believed she was owed. I told her, as gently as I could, that I couldn't take on that kind of financial responsibility. I offered to help in other ways, to continue supporting her, to help her find more resources, to even contribute more within reason. But her face had already changed. The moment she realized I was saying no, it was like a switch flipped. Her expression hardened. The warmth, the gratitude, the appreciation for everything I had already done, gone. And that was when I realized something that made my stomach sink. She didn't see me as a friend anymore. She saw me as a solution to her problem. And now that I wasn't willing to be that solution, I was nothing to her. After that conversation, everything changed. At first, Emily didn't say much. She just sat there, staring at me like she was trying to process the fact that I had actually said no. Then, without another word, she got up and left. I didn't hear from her for days. At first, I thought she just needed time to cool off. I knew it wasn't what she wanted to hear, and I understood that she was going through something incredibly difficult. I told myself that once the initial disappointment wore off, she would see that I wasn't abandoning her. I was just setting a reasonable boundary. But the silence stretched on. Then, I started hearing from mutual friends. Apparently, Emily had been telling people that I had refused to help her even though I was loaded. She painted it as if I had coldly turned my back on her and let her suffer while I sat on piles of money. She left out the part where I had already helped her in every other way imaginable. Some people took my side, saying it was unfair for her to expect me to pay such a massive amount. Others, though, weren't so kind. I started getting passive-aggressive messages from people who I thought were my friends, people telling me that money changes people, and that I clearly don't care about anyone but myself. I was floored. I had spent years busting my ass to get to where I was, never expecting anyone to bail me out, never asking for a single favor. And now, because I had finally built something for myself, I was expected to give it away the moment someone else needed it. The guilt hit me harder than I expected. I knew, logically, that I hadn't done anything wrong. But that didn't stop the what-ifs from creeping in. What if I really was selfish? What if I could have helped more? What if she doesn't get the care she needs, and I could have prevented it? But then I reminded myself of something important. Emily had options. She had family. She had other friends. She had resources available to her. But instead of exhausting those options, she had come to me, assuming that because I was doing well, I was responsible for fixing her problems. That wasn't how friendship was supposed to work. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Because if the situation had been reversed, if I had been the one struggling, if I had been the one sick and in debt, I knew she wouldn't have done the same for me. And that's when I realized something painful but necessary. This wasn't just about the money. This was about the fact that Emily had only valued our friendship as long as I was useful to her. So, I made a decision. I stopped chasing after her. I stopped trying to justify myself to people who had already made up their minds. I stopped losing sleep over whether or not I had made the right choice. I had done my part. I had been a good friend. And if that wasn't enough for Emily, then maybe our friendship was never real to begin with.